Welcome to Mr. Haunt's dungeon where the darkness comes alive. Dive into spine-chilling tales and eerie encounters that will keep you on the edge of your seat. If you love the thrill of a good scare, hit that subscribe button and join us for new frightening and true stories. Don't miss out, fear awaits. Now, sit back, relax, and let's get to the story. I've always been a skeptic. Ghosts, monsters, and the supernatural were nothing more than stories to me, fantastical tales spun to entertain or frighten. But what I experienced last summer shattered my comfortable disbelief. It's taken me months to come to terms with what happened, and even now, recounting it sends chills down my spine. This is my story, and I swear to you, every word is true. It began with a trip to Morocco. I had always wanted to explore the vibrant culture, the bustling souks, and the breathtaking landscapes. My friends Adam and Sarah joined me on this adventure, eager to experience the wonders of a land so steeped in history and mystery. We spent our days wandering the narrow streets of Marrakech, haggling in the markets, and savoring the rich flavors of Moroccan cuisine. The evenings were filled with the sounds of traditional music and the scent of spices wafting through the air. It was during one of these evenings, as we sat in a small cafe, that we heard about the ancient ruins of Ayat Ben Haddou. A local guide, an elderly man named Hassan, told us about the place over mint tea. He spoke of its history and beauty, but his voice lowered conspiratorially when he mentioned the Djinn said to haunt the area. Djinn, he explained, were spirits made of smokeless fire, capable of great good or immense evil. They could be benevolent, but they were also known to be tricksters, leading the unsuspecting astray. Intrigued and undeterred by his warnings, we decided to visit Ayat Ben Haddou. The next morning, we hired a car and set off on the long drive through the Atlas Mountains. The landscape was stunning, red earth contrasting with green valleys and the snow-capped peaks in the distance. As we neared the ancient city, the atmosphere seemed to shift. The air grew heavier, and an unspoken tension settled among us. We arrived at the ruins in the late afternoon. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows that gave the place an eerie, timeless quality. We wandered through the deserted Kasbah, marveling at the ancient architecture and the sense of history that permeated the place. Despite the beauty, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. As dusk fell, Adam suggested we explore a bit further into the less restored areas of the ruins. Sarah and I reluctantly agreed, our earlier excitement now tempered by an uneasy sense of foreboding. We followed Adam deeper into the maze of crumbling walls and narrow passageways, the fading light casting twisted shadows that played tricks on our eyes. It was in one of these shadowy corridors that we found it, a small, unassuming doorway partially hidden by debris. Adam, ever the adventurer, pushed aside the rubble and stepped inside. Sarah and I exchanged nervous glances before following him into the darkened room. The air inside was cool and damp, a stark contrast to the dry heat outside. Our flashlight beams danced across the walls, revealing intricate carvings and faded paintings that hinted at the room's ancient origins. In the center of the room stood an old, ornate chest, its surface covered in dust and cobwebs. Adam, with a grin, approached the chest and carefully lifted the lid. Inside, nestled among rotting cloth and tarnished trinkets, was a small, ornate lamp. It was beautiful, intricately designed with swirling patterns that seemed to shimmer in the flashlight's beam. "Look at this," Adam exclaimed, holding it up for us to see. As he did, a strange, cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing our flashlights. We stood in darkness, the only sound the rapid beating of my heart. And then, faintly at first, we heard it, a whisper, soft and seductive, speaking in a language I couldn't understand. The voice grew louder, more insistent, filling the room with an otherworldly presence that seemed to press in on us from all sides. "Adam, put it down," I said, my voice trembling. But it was too late. The whispering grew into a cacophony of voices, each one more desperate and malevolent than the last. The air crackled with an electric energy, and a faint, smoky figure began to coalesce before us. The figure grew more distinct, taking on the shape of a tall, slender man with eyes that burned like embers. "Who dares to awaken me?" the figure hissed, its voice a blend of anger and curiosity. "We didn't mean to," Sarah stammered, backing away. "We're sorry." The Djinn's eyes fixed on her, then on each of us in turn. "Sorry," it sneered. "You trespass in my domain, disturb my slumber, and offer apologies." Fear paralyzed me. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be real. But the Djinn's presence was undeniable, a malevolent force that seemed to seep into my very soul. "We'll leave," Adam said, his voice unsteady. "We'll leave right now." The Djinn laughed, a sound like dry leaves rustling in the wind. "Leave? You think you can simply walk away?" With a wave of its hand, the Djinn sent a gust of wind that knocked us off our feet. The room spun around me, the ancient walls closing in as darkness engulfed us. I awoke to find myself alone in the ruins, the morning sun casting long shadows over the desolate landscape. My head throbbed, and my memories were a jumbled mess of fear and confusion. I called out for Adam and Sarah, my voice echoing off the stone walls. There was no response. Desperation fueled my search as I stumbled through the ruins, my mind racing with thoughts of what had happened. Hours passed, and still I found no trace of them. Exhausted and defeated, I collapsed against a wall, tears streaming down my face. It was then that Hassan found me. His weathered face was etched with concern as he helped me to my feet. "What happened?" he asked gently. I struggled to explain, the words catching in my throat. "The Djinn I finally managed. It took them." Hassan's expression darkened. He nodded slowly, as if he had expected this. "Come with me," he said. "We must find them before it's too late." We returned to the cafe in Morocco, where Hassan gathered a group of men, elders who seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. They spoke in hushed tones, their faces grave as they prepared for what lay ahead. Armed with ancient texts, talismans, and a determination born of necessity, we returned to Eight Ben Haddou that night. The air was thick with anticipation as we entered the ruins, the elders chanting prayers and incantations to ward off the Djinn's influence. We found the chamber where the ordeal had begun, the lamp still lying on the ground. The Djinn's presence was palpable, a suffocating weight that pressed down on us. The elders formed a circle, their voices rising in unison as they called upon powers I couldn't comprehend. The Djinn appeared once more, its form flickering like a flame. It snarled and roared, but the elders stood firm, their chants growing louder and more forceful. The air crackled with energy, and a blinding light filled the room, forcing me to shield my eyes. When the light faded, the Djinn was gone. In its place lay Adam and Sarah, unconscious but alive. Relief washed over me as I rushed to their side, tears of gratitude mingling with the dust and grime on my face. Hassan and the elders helped us back to Morocco, where we recuperated under their watchful care. They explained that the Djinn had been bound to the lamp for centuries, a malevolent spirit seeking freedom. Our unwitting disturbance had awakened it, but the elders' knowledge and power had banished it once more. In the weeks that followed, we slowly recovered from our ordeal, but the experience left its mark on us, a lingering reminder of the thin veil that separates our world from the supernatural. I no longer scoff at tales of spirits and Djinn, for I have seen their power firsthand. And so I share this story as a warning: there are forces in this world that we cannot understand, ancient beings that dwell in the shadows, waiting for the unwary to stumble into their domain. If you ever find yourself in a place where the air feels heavy and the shadows seem to whisper, heed the warnings and tread carefully. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed,